Yeah, Shepard, the rage of the storm really has hit Key Largo. You know, it really started with some 30-mile-an-hour sustained winds yesterday morning at around 10 a.m., and it continued to get worse throughout the day and night. We were up until about 3:30 on Fox News, and at that point the winds were sustained 50 to 60, but when we got up after about 3 hours of downtime, look behind me, I'm going to step away so you can see the rage of the storm come through, Shepard. Now, we're in a protected area. We're in a Cat 5 rated 3-story hotel, so we're kind of out of the wind, if you want to think or call it that, for just a little bit. So just look out beyond us. Even 5 feet from behind where I'm standing, you can see there's trees snapped. There's one tree across there that's got to be about 4 feet around, Shepard, and about maybe 15 feet up. It is snapped absolutely in half. So you can see the power of Irma as she comes ashore. And she comes ashore, Shepard, also, again, after being battered since 10 a.m. yesterday morning. By the wind meter, which I have, it shows gusts here 75, 80 miles an hour. When I put it out just beyond from where our protected part is, and the rain just blows, Shepard, significantly. We know also about midnight yesterday, we went across the island. If people don't know how Key Largo works, it's about a mile wide at the area where we're located. On the ocean side is where we were yesterday. We went over there around midnight last night. It was already under 3 feet of storm surge, and that was at midnight, way before the rage of this storm has come through, Shepard. We're on the bay side right now. The bay water hasn't come up yet, but as you can see, we're still getting it from the easterly direction, Shepard.
Man, how many more hours of this kind of thing are you guys expecting, Adam?
They're telling us we could have another 12 hours, Shepard, and we haven't had power since most of this Key Largo area, and for that matter, the northern Keys haven't had power for, gosh, 10:30 yesterday morning it went out for us. And it has just been nonstop wind. You know, we've been at other hurricanes before. You have as well. You don't usually have it for this long unless the hurricane is stalling off the coast. In this case, the hurricane is just absolutely blasting the Keys. You saw a couple of people here at the hotel. There are a few folks that could not get out. They could not get a flight. They could not drive. And I'll tell you, from being here for the last 4 days, what they decided to do was find a Category 5 rated hotel, and this owner decided to stay open to help those people. Other hotels did not do that for the liability purposes and also the unknown purposes of what this hurricane might do. At one point, Key Largo was where the eye was supposed to cross. We're not going to get the eye, I don't think, Shepard. We haven't seen the report this morning in the last hour, but we're going to be close enough, obviously, to get some pretty horrific conditions, Shepard.
Adam Housley.
When it comes to the forecast of Hurricane Irma, Glenn, when is the next track coming out?
They're coming out hourly now,
okay.
But really most of those are not track adjustments. Hold on 1 second, Mike. I'm just getting a flash flood warning for St. Lucie County until 5:15 a.m. Fort Pierce has just gotten a tremendous amount of rainfall in the past 3 hours. We're getting reports of completely flooded roadways, US 1 and Orange Avenue. Also reports of a home that has now been flooded in the Fort Pierce area. So there's a lot going on, and we're going to see more and more of this throughout the day as Irma continues to move up to the north. It has, if you're just waking up with us now, the storm has lifted north of Cuba and is headed for Key West as a Category 4 hurricane. And it could strengthen even more as it continues to move to the north. Now, the earlier forecast, the 11 p.m. discussion, which is one of the major updates for the storm. There'll be another big one coming out at 5 a.m. this morning. That had the storm staying as a Category 3 hurricane all the way as it moved up to the north. But obviously, Irma has done whatever it's wanted to do here, and it's been fluctuating in strength quite a bit as we've been covering it. At times it was a Category 5, then a Category 4, then back to a Category 5. So this storm headed for Key West and should be there pretty close to 8 o'clock this morning. As a Category 3 to Category 4 hurricane, there's some indications there's some wind shear that's coming in, and that may weaken it a little bit, but not much. Staying a major hurricane as it moves up, either making landfall or very close to Fort Pierce. The storm surge here could be absolutely catastrophic as this moves up toward Fort Myers, rather. Fort Myers, by the way, floods extremely easily, and we've had reports in the past, and there are people that we've spoken to in the Fort Myers area that have told us that storm surge can go 10, 15 miles inland, even more than that. I know if we get a storm surge here, we're pretty flat and the water can come inland, but not as much as in Fort Myers. As we go up toward Tampa here, we could see possible landfall in the Tampa-St. Pete area by late tonight, early tomorrow morning. But then look at this acceleration as it gets up to the north here, moving up near the Florida Panhandle by early tomorrow morning, all the way up by Monday night over toward Alabama and through Georgia and up all the way toward Kentucky and Tennessee by the time we get to Wednesday. So that's the light at the end of the tunnel, is that this is moving very quickly. Once it gets up close to Florida, it's going to accelerate up to the north. Computer models in good agreement that this is the final track for Irma, right up very close to or right over the west coast of Florida, and then heading up eventually through Georgia and over off to the northwest here. Let's talk a little bit about winds. There are several different computer models that we're looking at this morning that are estimating wind speeds for our area as Irma moves from south to north. This is the American model, and I believe Felicia showed the European model. Those are two of the most reliable computer models that we use to forecast these systems. So here's what the American model thinks as far as wind speed in our area as we move through the day today. Starting this morning with wind speeds, these are just gusts, by the way. I should say these are wind gusts. So how high, I guess we could see, possibly over 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts in Boca by the time we get to 6, 7 o'clock this morning. 50-mile-per-hour wind gusts possible all along the coast here. 39-mile-per-hour wind gusts in Vero Beach. That's the threshold for tropical storm force winds, 39 miles per hour. 48-mile-per-hour wind gusts possible around Lake Okeechobee by later on this morning. This is a possibility because Miami is now reporting at Miami International Airport wind gusts above 60 miles per hour as the storm continues to accelerate to the north. So here's 8:30 this morning. Wind gusts continue to pick up, possibly 80-mile-per-hour wind gusts or more in Boca, 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts possible along the coast there, 41 in Vero, 59-mile-per-hour wind gusts around the lake. And then look what happens around lunchtime today and just past that as the storm continues to push to the north. We could see wind gusts 85 plus in Boca. Close to 80-mile-per-hour wind gusts along the coast here, close to 90-mile-per-hour wind gusts inland around Lake Okeechobee, and then as the eye starts to move up very close to the coast during the late afternoon and evening hours near Fort Myers, look at these potential wind gusts above 100 miles per hour. According to this computer model, around Lake Okeechobee, we could see 80 to 90-mile-per-hour wind gusts along the coast. The storm continues to move to the north during the evening hours. This is 3:30 in the morning tomorrow morning, and the storm, you see the eye over here. So that's starting to move up to the north. These wind gusts start to calm down, but still very, very gusty winds. And even by late morning Monday, as the storm starts to move to the northwest of our viewing area, we stay windy. Now things will start to calm down by Monday afternoon. Rainfall will start to clear up as the storm lifts to the north. And it looks like a pretty calm night Monday and a pretty nice day on Tuesday. We've got a tornado watch in yellow here for our entire viewing area, all the way down to Miami, the Florida Keys, all the way back over toward Fort Myers here. There's a lot of twisting in these rain bands as they move on shore. So the tornado risk is high. It's enhanced today, according to the Storm Prediction Center. We had a slew of tornado warnings overnight last night. Steve Weigel and James Whelan were here covering those. These storms are fast movers in these rain bands here. It's a lot of rainfall and thunderstorms embedded in that. They're moving at about 37 miles per hour. So if a tornado warning pops up, we'll track that cell for you. But just remember how fast those are moving. So fast. Usually the tornado warnings are really quick. We have a tornado warning for this short amount of time for this little area, and then it's moved on. So we have to be on top of it, which we will be throughout the day today. Here's a look at the heavy rainfall. It continues to come down in Fort Pierce and Vero Beach. Stewart has been getting some heavy rain. If we look at some totals here, these are estimated rainfall totals. Could be anywhere from almost 8 inches. Look at that. There's 8 inches right there, just north of Sunland Gardens. 7.3, 6.9 around Fort Pierce, 6.4, 6.6, 5.8 inches of rain. This is all just within the last few hours. We've seen this heavy rainfall coming in. Nettles Island with really heavy rainfall. Heritage Ridge getting some rain. Look at this, from Jupiter Island down to Jupiter, down to Ballin Isles. That's a pretty good sized thunderstorm embedded in that rainfall there. So if you're not hearing it already, you're going to start to hear some big-time thunder in Stuart at 3:47 there, 3:35 at Heritage Ridge. Within the next 4 or 5 minutes here, you're really going to start to hear it. This big cell here accelerating inland around Delray Beach. That's on the move too. It should be in there pretty soon. Boynton Beach too by 3:39, and around Coral Sky Amphitheater at about 3:55 as it stays on this track up to the northwest. So in the legend here, if you look at 8 to 12 inches of rain, that's orange and yellow, and you can see that in here. Look at that orange along the coast there, lots of yellow here. So we're talking the potential of over a foot of rainfall, and some locations could receive up to 15 inches of rain or more in isolated locations as we continue through the day today and overnight tonight. Vipercast shows the rainfall. You see the spotty yellows and oranges here. That's where there's heavier rain and the potential for thunderstorms. Look what happens as we get to around 8:15, 9 o'clock this morning. Look at these solid yellows and oranges as the storm lifts to the north. That's a lot of thunderstorm activity lifting up through the area. There's 12:30 this afternoon. There's a lot going on as we move through the day today. That's 3:45 this afternoon. So we have a long day ahead of us of very active weather. We'll be sending everything out on social media. We'll be doing it here on the air. I have a feeling we'll be tracking a lot of different cells for everyone throughout the day today, and we'll be talking about quite a bit of flooding across our area as well, on and off throughout the day. Ashley and Mike?
Yeah, I want to ask a specific question,
Sure.
Glenn, about wind gusts. Now, when maybe somebody's new to a hurricane or hasn't really been through one like this, when we're talking about wind gusts, is that, usually a timed interval like the rain bands? You can kind of see them coming across whoosh or whatever time frame in between. But talk about wind gusts, how long they could last, how long in between.
Well, wind gusts are really brief. When you feel them coming, it's just a gust of wind, but it's recorded. Sustained winds are longer periods of time where you have a minute or so of a certain wind speed. But the wind gusts will be short, but they could do some damage really quickly. But the sustained winds could be tropical storm force winds as we continue through most of the day today, and that's 39 to 73 miles per hour. So we could see sustained winds in that range through the day, and then the wind gusts would be even higher than that, up to 70, up to 80 miles per hour, or more than that around Lake Okeechobee. It may only last a few seconds, but it can do some damage in just a few seconds.
Yeah, I think that's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
Just helping people understand it. So, just because it's one type of wind 1 second, it could be very, very high.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've all been walking around at one point and suddenly a wind gust hits us and we're like, whoa,
Right.
that was a heavy wind gust. That's nothing like what we could see today. The kind of wind gusts we could see today could knock you off your feet pretty fast.
We're here to ask the questions a lot of people want to ask this morning.
Yeah, sure.
That they're
Ask
not
away.
sure of,
Ask away.
Thank you, Glenn. We
Sure.
really do appreciate it.
That sound, as scary as it is, yeah, you're going to be hearing that tonight, and it's going to keep most of you up at night as the worst of Irma is expected to impact our area. So
That's right. It's going to get worse and worse through the day. So by the time you're even starting to lay your head down to try to get a few winks of sleep, it's going to start getting very worse. Not only is the Key West dealing with heavy rain and strong winds, but there's that ever-present wave danger out there.
These numbers are impressive. Let's go ahead and show you what's happening down there. And these numbers, we have just been just mind-boggled by these numbers here. We're talking about 25 to 35-foot waves. These are current wave heights. Now moving across the Keys here, we have likely significant surge ongoing there, along with the extremely high winds as well here. This system is just bashing the Keys right now, but we're already feeling effects of our own here.
That's right. This is a huge, massive storm. It is nearly 400 miles across. And some of those outer rain bands using Max Defender 8, yeah, they're right in our community. So we are seeing the rain now, and then look at what's to come. Rain band, that's a yellow band of rain. Rain band in Fort Myers, rain band in Bonita Springs, rain band in Naples, rain band once you head down into Alligator Alley. And Max Defender 8 sees through all of those. That is the power of an S-band radar that most television stations don't have. In fact, mostly the National Weather Service that has these.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is so Max Defender 8 getting quite a workout, and this will be an absolute workhorse as we go forward through this storm as it gets closer and closer to our area. Again, you can also note there are some flashing lights there on the East Coast. Those are tornado warnings. There's a tornado watch in effect for Highlands and DeSoto County in effect until noon today. And it's all in preparation for this. Take a look at what's happening right now in Key West. The storm's still some 260 miles away, but let's take you down into the core of this Category 4 hurricane, and it is just, man, you look at that picture, that is a scary sight for the folks in the Keys right now.
Yeah, the strongest part of a hurricane is in that northeast or quadrant of the eye wall, and that is what has crashed onshore now, somewhere between Key West and Marathon. And so as the light of day comes up here in the next 2 hours, we're going to see devastation.
And I just checked, it's starting to knock out weather sensors across the Keys. No surprise there. Well, we do want to give you the latest here in terms of the track of Irma here. This is the 5 a.m. advisory. It's been updated. In fact, now 7 a.m. here. This is just a position update, and the strength of the system virtually unchanged. It's now just right on top of the Keys.
Right, and 130 mile per hour sustained winds as it moves to the northwest, which means it's going to parallel the southwest coast of Florida. It is now not expected to make landfall in Naples. Remember how we thought that yesterday? Well, if you went to bed that way, you're waking up to more of a westerly shift, which takes it closer to Fort Myers and unfortunately closer to the coast of Sarasota. It's not a definite that it's going to hit Sarasota. It's just that coastline is going to get closer to the center of a Category 4 hurricane.
That's right, and then conditions start really deteriorating by this time. And let's take you a little bit further in time, Monday at 2 a.m. So this is overnight tonight and into Monday morning. We're talking about the potential of a major hurricane in and around Tampa Bay, and the wind field, regardless of where this thing makes landfall, if it makes landfall, most of the area will experience hurricane force winds just because of the massive wind field.
That's right, and the closer you get to wherever the center is, even if it doesn't make landfall, it could stay off in the Gulf of Mexico. That's still a possibility at this point, but that doesn't matter because the hurricane wind field extends 80 miles out. So if you look at this map, and if you are 80 miles from where that icon is, you will feel hurricane force winds. And again, it's that overnight time period. You heard Avery talk about it. We have talked about it multiple times. Tonight, it is going to be hard to sleep with Category 3 winds outside of your window.
And if you're hoping and thinking, okay, well, once the storm moves off, that the threats are done, unfortunately, that will not be the case, because even after the center passes into North Florida, we've got a water issue, and it could be significant in some areas now because we have strong winds coming off the Gulf of Mexico as we head into the second half of the day on Monday. And it's during that time, any surge, any coastal water rise that we've had, and tidal rise as well, that's going to have a hard time coming back into the Gulf and retreating with that strong onshore flow. And speaking of that, storm surge warnings now in effect.
That's right. So if you're in the Manatee and Sarasota County area, now this is certainly is going to change as we pinpoint exactly where this eye actually traverses. But at this point, a storm surge warning is in effect for Manatee and Sarasota County, and we expect anywhere from 4 up to an 8 feet surge. Now that's, again, think about how tall you are. If you're 4 to 8 feet, now that just means that the water is going to be that much closer and that much higher than it normally is.
Now, what we are looking at in the Tampa Bay area, we've actually increased the total to 5 to 9 feet because, again, you're going to get water coming in, and it's likely going to want to pile into areas like Old Tampa Bay and Hillsborough Bay as well. So we're talking.
If you don't know where that is, that's up near the Old Tampa Bay is up near the Courtney Campbell, kind of in that the top little corner there, and then Hillsborough Bay is around downtown Tampa.
That's right. So we're talking about Bayshore Boulevard there. So that's where we're going to likely see some water rise. Bayshore will likely flood as a result of this, and unfortunately, a lot of this is going to occur at the time of high tide, and that's why we're so concerned about those tide times.
Which is at pre-dawn on Monday. So less than 24 hours from now, pre-dawn hours of Monday is when high tide occurs and an onshore wind flow. So notice once you go up into Pasco and Citrus and Hernando, you will see a 4 to 7 foot storm surge or water rise as this storm passes by your area. That'll be later in the day on Monday morning.
That's right. So again, the water is going to be an issue even as we head into the second half of the day, because keep in mind, we're still going to be in tropical storm wind speeds even after the storm passes to the north. So we're still talking about 30 to 40, 50 mile per hour winds still coming off of the Gulf of Mexico at that time. So it's going to stay quite breezy through the day on Monday here. So
even though the rain may be lessening up, because most of the heaviest rain is on the northern side of it, the strong winds will still continue. And unfortunately for us, that means that direction would be coming off the Gulf.
Yeah, that's right. Now, another question that we've had a lot of is, are you going to lose power? Well, yes, you are. We're expecting widespread power outages as a result of this. And it's not just the wind itself, but keep in mind, things will likely get knocked over. Power lines, trees falling on top of power lines, things like that. So you can be prepared to go up to a week, maybe even a little bit more without power in some areas. We're expecting this to have significant impacts to our area. So I do want to go through the bottom line here in terms of the timing. We just want to sort of break this down to the nitty-gritty for you. So main impacts from the hurricane Sunday afternoon.
This afternoon.
This afternoon.
We wrote this graphic last night, so this afternoon all the way through Monday.
That's right. And in terms of the wind speeds, 75 to 100 miles per hour. That's a broad brush, but again, that is going to really depend exactly how close the center gets. And if you find yourself near the center, near the eye wall, we could have gusts up to major hurricane status. We can't rule that out.
Right, but the fact that we put on the low end of sustained winds 75, we basically think everyone that can hear our voices right now will feel hurricane force winds, which is 74 miles per hour. And that may be, you know, the extent of it for you if you're far away from the center of the circulation, but everybody's under a hurricane warning, which means a hurricane force winds are expected.
In terms of rainfall amounts, we're pretty confident now painting out a good 8 to 12 inches for some, but 10 to 15 inches. There will be some spots that get into that range here, especially if you get caught under these prolific downpours and they sort of train over the same area. And
we've already seen that in parts of our area so far. And remember, the rain accumulates until tomorrow.
And then the storm surge potential. Again, we've put 4 to 8 feet, but we've increased that in some spots. You saw in and around Tampa Bay, Pinellas County, 5 to 9. But again, this number is highly dependent on exactly where this comes ashore. If this comes ashore early and moves inland, our water situation improves. But if the storm track shifts any more to the west, we are going to end up seeing the projections for storm surge increase.
That's right. And so, guys, when we're still in that, we still look at the cone. The cone has gotten much, much smaller as we're now 24 hours away from this event. But for the way that our coastline is made, where it's so perpendicular that a shift of 3 or 4 miles would make actually a pretty big difference.
That's right. So we're going to continue to monitor the track. Every new scan, every new update, we will be the first to pass it along to you. Again, the next full track update comes out at 11, but we'll have intermediate advisories prior to that.
One thing, guys, we're on Facebook Live right now, and because we wanted to see what our viewers are asking, and one of them actually, just to maybe get a little bit more clarification, says if the hurricane does not make landfall, we shouldn't worry, right? But that's not the case. We want it to make landfall,
that's
correct?
That's far from the case, right? It is far from the case, because even if it's 3-4 miles offshore, because again that cone is smaller.
It is.
So it's not we're not expecting it to go way out into the Gulf of Mexico. That still puts us within the 80 miles of hurricane force winds, and it adds the threat of storm surge.
That's right. Now the inland wind potential for areas like Polk, Hardy, Highlands, DeSoto County, that may decrease a little bit, but the water is going to increase along coastal communities here. So again, we always say you can hide from the wind, you need to run from the water here. So if it goes offshore, the storm surge potential would increase.
All right, guys, thank you for that update. And, again, the bad timing there with the tides, because that water is going to stick around, and it's going to be, devastating for a lot of people. And Ed Bloodsworth.
Hey, good morning, guys. We did get the 8 a.m. advisory from the National Hurricane Center. The strength has not changed at 130 miles per hour, but they did, in bold letters, say it's about to make landfall in the lower Florida Keys.
That's right. It's been a very rough, about 2.5 hours now for the Florida Keys. They've been enduring the eye wall of this Category 4 hurricane. As we mentioned, no change into the winds, and we've also... we're looking right now again at Irma. I'm going to actually have now head over to Max Defender, because now we've got...
Just since we've been on the air talking to you seconds ago, a tornado warning for Polk County. So we'll switch this on over to show you Max Defender 8. So if you are in the Bartow, Fort Meade area, there is a tornado warning now. And we've told you this all day long, that in these rain bands, as they circulate around Hurricane Irma, they will have embedded tornadoes in them, and the National Weather Service is the one that's issuing these warnings.
Yeah, this storm is located 8 miles southeast of Bartow. The movement is west at 30 miles per hour, so it's a quick moving system. Let's go ahead and actually put a storm track on this. We'll actually sort of pinpoint where the worst of this system is. We're going to show the velocity, and it's not a very strong velocity signature here, and that's not what we expect, but it's
these are very small These are very small tornadoes. Sort of, you wouldn't even necessarily notice them because they're wrapped in rain.
So if it moves west, we're going to give it a few miles per hour just in case we get some speed changes here. But here are some of the areas that will be impacted in the next couple of minutes here from this potential tornado in Polk County. This will be heading towards the Agricola community at 8:13 this morning and eventually heading towards some of these neighborhoods. A lot of these are just neighborhoods south of Mulberry. And if it continues on its track, it would stay south of the Mulberry
area. It would stay south of Mulberry. I doubt it will hold together, but if it did, it would be basically heading toward the Hillsborough County line. But at the moment, what you're going to feel and hear is some, strong gusty winds right around US 98. The Homeland community right around, what is that, County Road 640?
Yes, it looks like the circulation is right along 640 right now. It's approaching the intersection of Highway 98 and 640. Again, heading towards the Barcola community south there in Agricola. We'll go ahead and remove this storm track for a second here and just to pinpoint some of the areas here and try to find some of the roads here. So there's
US 17.
An old Homeland road as well. We'll go ahead and draw this out. Here's Highway 98. US 17, and then this is County Road 640. The circulation, we'll move this back over, is embedded within this area of rain, and that's what we got to concern about. You're not likely going to be able to see this because it's likely a rain-wrapped tornado if we actually do have a tornado.
And there were already very strong winds because this is already a rain band around Hurricane Irma, and this is going to be the case. We will probably have numerous tornado warnings between now and tomorrow morning. It's the nature of a landfalling tropical system.
And what you're seeing here is our shear rate product. We only use this really when we talk about areas where we may have tornadic activity. So when we start seeing these areas of green pop up, that's indicating of weak wind shear. And that's, in this case, an area where a tornado could be at this point. So with this situation, so if we were to actually show you this, this is County Road 640 and near 80-foot road. This is mostly a rural area here, so, but again, it's heading towards that 98 corridor, which we know there are some buildings and some structures within that area. So this is a tornado warning. It is in effect until 8:30 this morning, so half an hour from now.
30 minutes from now. And it will stay south of Mulberry. I don't think it's going to hold together long enough to be able to make it into Hillsborough County, but so it's just that 98 County Road 690, the area that I'm concerned about at all.
Yeah, so again, we'll put another track on this, again, giving this a little bit of leeway here. Officially, it's moving west, but perhaps a little bit south of due west here at 30 miles per hour. And these, again, are some of the communities that will be impacted by this potential tornado.
All right, so let's give them a wide view now of max defender rate and the and where, so you can see that this is a rain band, the northern side of the rain band right now of Hurricane Irma. This has been bringing extremely heavy rainfall to the Highlands County community, the DeSoto County community, Northport, getting some heavy rain now, but this is that northern side of that rain band that has produced the tornado warning.
That's right. So again, we're looking at some rain rates in excess of 4 to 6 inches per hour at this time, and again, torrential downpours, and within this area we could again see the potential for some tornadic activity. And these tornadoes that we're talking about here are very quick spin-up tornadoes. They're likely not going to be able to be seen here because we're talking about lots of rain as well here. So rain-wrapped tornadoes are certainly possible within this area. So you're going to see this information here crawling across the bottom of your screen in regards to this tornado warning that is now in effect at this time. So we urge people, if you are south of Mulberry, anywhere south of Mulberry in Polk County, you need to go into your tornado shelter and right away. So again, we have this tornado warning in effect. So again, what you need to do again is to make sure that you are in a safe location right now. Again, let me put max defender rate back up there. And again, we'll just highlight those communities one more time.
That's right, and this is moving off to the west pretty quickly at about 30, 35 miles per hour. To the west, if not a little bit south of west, so we're talking about the Pembroke area, Agricola, Green Bay, Rolling Hills. But those are just tiny communities. You might not know where that is, but this is heading toward US 92. Am I saying that right? My brain just, 98, sorry. US 98 and County Road 640.
That's right. So in looking again at the storm relative velocity, again, we're already losing the signature.
Yeah, these are very small little spin-up tornadoes that occur in the rain bands themselves. They are not the long range, long distance storms that we can see at times. These are very short lived, and you know, if you're in this area, there probably are a few trees down, certainly some bigger limbs that came down. But again, this is all a part of Hurricane Irma, which is, you can see, extends all the way from Jacksonville to Havana at this point, making landfall right now in the lower Keys with winds of 130 miles per hour. This whole system will be moving to the north. As it does, those outer rain bands will become the inner rain bands, and the inner rain bands become the eye wall, and everything gets worse as that happens.
So that threat of tornadoes will continue here. Again, we always got to include that with tropical systems, so we're going to continue to track this. But again, these weak spin-ups will certainly be an issue as Irma continues to move north across our state.
Yeah.
Wow, that really put it in perspective that it stretches from Jacksonville, Florida, all the way down to Havana.
Yeah.
Yeah, we knew it was massive. We knew it was going to be bigger than the width of the state, but to look at the height of it, that is
It's big.
Oh my goodness. All right, guys, thank you so much.
Of your peak winds. Then we start to move on to the surge threat. Now, the surge is already taking place along the east side. You're getting that onshore flow, those winds pushing all of that water onto the east coast. The west coast, it's doing the exact opposite. It's taking the water and pushing it away from the beaches. So some of those beaches, you're actually just seeing miles and miles of sand, but no water where it should be. This is very dangerous. When that water comes back in, and it will do that as the storm pushes off to the north, the winds wrap back around and will push all that water back in. It doesn't come in slowly. It comes in fast and furious, and that will be deadly for anyone that is on those beaches. Then your total storm surge numbers are very impressive still. You'll notice here along the East Coast, some of these numbers have gone down. It's not because the overall numbers are lower, it's because they've already started to accumulate some storm surge. So this is additional storm surge going forward. The highest numbers still remain on the southwestern tier of Florida because it's a little bit shallower there. The gradient that it goes off before it dips into the ocean is shallower. That allows for those heights to come up a little bit higher than they would on the Atlantic side, where it's a much deeper drop. Here's a look at the track. It's over open water right now, so we expect it to maintain Category 4 strength until it gets to about Tampa. It will weaken